I'm disappointed. I sound more disappointed than I should be, but honestly, this is just downright embarrassing. The fact I'm here making another video about Ponytown is downright embarrassing. I already had no brain cells, but now it's -0. Because of this Ponytown crap that I just learned about today. Because I live under a rock. Because I'm not actually in the Ponytown fandom. I don't follow it. So I don't know what's going on until I figure it out myself, out of curiosity. Anyways, yeah. 7 months ago on the Ponytown subreddit, there was a post made discussing touch triggers, and I'm going to be reading it and making fun of it. Let's go. A couple of days ago, I posted suggestions on features that would prevent people from getting triggered from touch triggers, and it didn't go over well. People don't have an understanding of what a touch trigger in Ponytown is and how to handle it. A touch trigger is when someone gets triggered by having their character touched. Already clowning on us with this crap. Let's continue. It may be for personal reasons, like previous game or real-life trauma. They may not directly mention it, and they vary from person to person. Some will let ponies touch them unless they know them very well or trust them. Others don't let anyone. A common argument against it is that they're just 16-bit fictional colorful ponies. People still get upset over words on the screen that are also the pixels. Same logic. No, it's not really the same logic. There's a difference between words on a screen and a pony. Some people get a quote-unquote phantom touch from booping, meaning they can feel it in real life when you boop them because of their past trauma. Okay. If you see someone you don't know, don't walk up to them and boop them. That's the absolute worst thing you could do. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna burst into flames and die on the spot because they booped me. Oh my gosh. Because they might have a touch trigger. It's better to ask them for permission first. Don't force them to agree. A written verbal yes is only a yes if it's certain. Don't say yes if it's uncertain. Seriously. Just don't. Please, no. Never do that. Anyways, let's just continue. If they say no, just move on. Don't guilt trip them. You can still talk with them, just don't interact with them if it's not necessary. If you accidentally touch someone with a touch trigger, you will probably be notified by the pony that they have a touch trigger. If they do, cease in further interactions. Okay, bad grammar. Don't worry, it may happen. Just respect them when you realize you've made a mistake. Feels kind of passive-aggressive to me. So what happens when you don't respect someone's touch trigger? They can go through panic attacks with racing thoughts of their past trauma circling through their head, and may need support from other ponies to help them calm down. Even if you don't understand it, at the very least respect it. I'm not saying that this isn't a real thing, I'm just saying it's ridiculous. Anyways, let's move on to the comments. Let's start with the first comment. It's amazing. You people have developed such an acute sense of phantom touch that you can feel what happens to a 2D 16-bit pony. Touch trigger is not the correct term for this. It's really weird you people don't even know the name of your own phobia. Also, phantom touches only exist on hyper-detailed games, i.e. Red Dead 2 or VR games, i.e. VR chat. Also, it's so weird that this touch trigger only exists in the MCYT area on the 18+ server, which I happen to have gone to quite often, and it only has been a thing for about a week or two now. As someone who's medically diagnosed with aphophobia, the real term for fear of being touched, it makes me so frustrated that people like you are making a blatant mockery of it. I have to live through this every day. Meanwhile, you put TT in your name because you're following some dumb trend. First of all, you're spitting straight facts! Facts! That's a really good comment to this, massive thing. Now let's move on to other comments. I can see where you're coming from with this, but if someone boops you, can't you just hide them? I don't want to be disrespectful, but the hide feature is there for a reason. That's what they should be doing if they have genuine touch trigger. They focus on their own health. Sit away and hide people bothering them. But I watch someone type grrr, or God forbid, call someone a slur because they were touched. Those people don't have a trigger. They want attention from the trend because PT people are naive and will follow someone after pity. I struggled to read that first part of that person's reply to this other one, because the grammar is just absolutely bonkers. And let's look at this other comment. I find it weird that this whole touch trigger thing in Ponytown only showed up recently. It gives off huge "I'm doing this for attention to be trendy" vibes. Nobody had problems with people booping you on Ponytown 2 months ago. I'm saying this as someone who has actual touch triggers in real life. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I started playing in 2018 nearly 3 years ago now. You would not see even a single person with touch trigger on there. Plus, I also find it weird how people get triggered by a 2D game that isn't VR. I mean, I respect it, but I find it kind of dumb, to be honest. Especially since so many people just randomly got TT all at the same time, and that same TT triggers through PT. As someone with IRL aphophobia, seeing lots of people on it, PT, who think TTs are a quirky, cute thing to use for attention is just really disrespectful to the real life phobia. And even if I did somehow get uncomfy from a pixel horse touching my pixel horse, I can easily just hide them instead of making a big fuss about it. For real. Sorry, but if you have TT or TD in your name, I'm immediately hiding you. This whole touch trigger thing is dumb. If you seriously get fandom touch from Ponytown, which is highly unlikely, it seems people are just faking it because they're attention W's, then you need to get help. Indeed. Get help, please. There's something wrong with you. I can't find a single article about touch trigger. Plus, the thing didn't exist until this year. I've been playing Ponytown for 3 years, and this is the first year I saw someone who had TT. TT is basically a mockery of a real phobia. It's just a trend, and you can't get triggered over a 2-pixel pony game. I understand that you can get triggered in a more realistic game with higher graphics, but in Ponytown you're just mocking people. Who the hell even started this crap? For real, who the frick is starting these trends? It's like one day there's no trend, but then the next there is one, and I have no clue who started it. And let's read this other one. I'm a half-phobic, and seeing this doesn't really bother me, yet does bother me. Fandom touches only usually occur on VR games or high-detail games, not a game about ponies building a town, 2D pixelated ponies. And if people or you are bothered by it, then just hide them. I get that real-life trauma occurred to you and you may be bothered by it, but on a 2D pixelated game about ponies? If so, just hide them. And it's become a trend too. I've lived through trauma, and hell, I even have PTSD, but some people can't understand and use real-life trauma as a way to make themselves look special. But there are people that have really been through trauma, and I can understand that, but just hide them except for making a big fuss about it, please. For real. I seriously don't get how you can get fandom touches from a pixelated pony game. Doesn't that only happen in super detailed games? Fake touch trigger example 1. List all the things wrong with this image. Boop for WCRP, no skin, no permit. And the person's username has TT at the end of it. Hilarious. Talk about hypocritical. Nice. Anyways, let's just read a more serious comment. Coming back to this matter. Apparently, if you say your opinion, everyone will gang up on you, call you slurs, quote-unquote educate you, or just plain out crap on you. You're now someone that everyone hates and will spread fake information about, and now everyone will call you slurs, if they ever recognize you. But if you have TT, TS, TD, or any other stupid variation of touch triggers, you'll get attention, love, and everyone will respect you and will have everything you want from people because you're a dumb and egoist attention seeker that tells people that TT is a mental problem, when it's just discomfort, and doesn't even respect people with real mental problems. Suddenly, you're an angel, you're a saint, and you deserve to be loved. And then there's people that are responding and being like, oh my gosh, I don't want to touch it. Dude, shh. Also, oh my gosh, the sensitive TT babies are coming on this discussion to yell at us to respect their TikTok trend when they don't respect us. Lamau. Heart emoji. Bruh. I'm deceased. This is funny. Let's read another one. I love how people are so quick to assume you do not have a life relating to someone who has TT, despite people literally telling them that they have a touch trigger in real life, and this is offensive to them. I just want this trend to end because literally someone with TT came up to me a few days ago asking me to move despite being like 5 ponies away from them. No, this was in the Pokemon area, 18+. Gonna note, if they had TT, why the hell are they booping strangers? I've seen so many cases of TT people just booping strangers and kissing or any other emotes. During one of the events, there were many TT people in the islands making big deals about people not abiding by their rules. Like, I get you don't want your 16-bit pony body to be touched, but for frick's sake, do not go somewhere where it's obviously going to be crowded and filled with people and demand people to just not touch you. For real. Where is this crap even coming from? It's so hypocritical. You don't want to be touched, yet you're in an area where you're more likely to be touched? Go somewhere that's empty. My gosh. Oh. Anyways, let's move on from this first Reddit post because I found another one. Let's start reading it. Touch trigger, trend rant. Before I start, I'd like to say that even though I don't understand the touch trigger, I at the very least respect it. I know not everyone with touch trigger in their name behaves like this, but over time I've noticed it as a growing trend where people feel they have the ability to behave like this. I don't know how many of these are valid, but I will assume good faith and act like everyone with TT in their name really does get triggered by in-game touching. I'm sorry about your past traumatic events, as nobody should have to go through it. Also, I know people are running around touch triggering people on purpose because they think it's funny, which I don't think that is the right way to handle this. With all that being said, I've noticed a great amount of toxic behavior in people with touch triggers and their groups over the last month. It's a good example of gang mentality. Such behaviors I've witnessed are racism, homophobia, telling people to go suck a D, death threats, telling people to, game med themselves, disrespecting other common triggers, general gang harassment towards a single individual. It doesn't matter if it was on purpose or an accident. I've seen this behavior towards so many players, even non-English speaking ones. The group believes all of these are justified because someone invalidated their trigger. Not everyone understands triggers and will have questions, but rarely are they met with mature responses. Usually something like, just respect their trigger! You can try to talk to them and tell them to respond in a more mature way for people to understand them better, but it's usually met with the most immature screeching and repeated points over and over again. Many people from outside the group would join in as an attempt to fit into a group and join in on the harassment. Many are impossible to reason with. For example, last week I saw a pony sitting in the middle of the road, where many ponies walk through. I suggested, if you have a TT, maybe you should move out of the road. And the group shouted, stop telling us what to do, just respect the trigger and go round. They do this in crowded areas too, instead of going somewhere less crowded. Others will tell you to back off, even if you're sitting a decent distance from them, even though you're not touching them. Rarely do they block the people that are triggering them. I've seen them argue with people for a whole hour with someone who just had some questions. It's not unusual for people to have questions about it, and if they do, just answer them. Another excuse they often have is they keep getting harassed by people and taking it out on other people who had nothing to do with their previous harassment. Sometimes it feels like they're just trying to get triggered on purpose by doing everything they possibly can to draw attention to themselves and get touched in game. This may not be what they're trying to do, but their actions feel like they are to me. My point is, people seem to be taking this way too far. Just because you or someone you know has a touch trigger doesn't give you free reign to become a complete a-hole and do whatever you want. An excuse is that they can't control their emotions and make having a touch trigger their entire identity. I'm willing to make adjustments to accommodate for your trigger, but you need to do your part too. The amount of ponies with touch triggers seems to be growing, with various areas of the map having a TT argument with someone who's questioning it every time I visit them. To the people who have TT and behave rationally, I have nothing against you and will respect it, even though I don't completely understand. It's the a-holes in the groups with touch triggers that need to stop this abhorrent behavior. This kind of behavior isn't bringing awareness to the issue. All it's doing is turning people against it. Even if someone is legitimately trolling to you to get a reaction out of you, this is not how you respond. And I agree. Now, let's read the first commenter, which they made a comment on the previous post that I read, but this one's longer. I commented on this topic before. I have haphophobia, which is the real term for what people call a touch trigger. I've talked to so many of the people who claim to have this, and they never describe actual happhobia. You can do your research on this phobia, but I'll go ahead and summarize it. Happhobia is the fear of being touched. This phobia is not common, which Ponytown would disprove the statistics somehow. And it can cause panic attacks, the feeling of nausea, fainting, and hyperventilation. These are just a few. There are many more. And what the people I've spoken with regarding the matter tend to describe a discomfort than a trigger. Trigger means to distress someone, typically as a result of arousing feelings or memories associated with a particular traumatic experience. The majority of the time, this would imply a panic attack or extreme anxiety. Having a discomfort with something is very different than a trigger, and the two words should not be used together. The misuse of buzz terms such as trigger, etc. is very common among fandom groups, and it could get to the point that the word could lose all of its meaning among said groups. From what I've been able to gather from researching this trend for 2 weeks now, it seems anyone who has a mild discomfort of being interacted with by strangers only have TT in their name. It's not a trigger then by this alone. Triggers have no exception to their rules. By saying strangers aren't allowed to touch but friends are, they are describing a discomfort with being interacted with by people they don't know, which everyone on the planet is discomforted by interacting with strangers or having a stranger touch them in real life. This doesn't mean they will have a panic attack every time someone they don't know interacts with them. If this definition were to apply to real happhobia, then every person on the planet would have a panic attack over a touch, whether accidental or not. This is why the phobia is uncommon. It needs to be much more than a discomfort. I've asked a few people from the Minecraft area if they have the same problems on games such as Minecraft, if, for example, a pig or a zombie touched their in-game character, if they would have severe distress from it. Every person I asked said no, or didn't answer at all, and just replied was, respect triggers, or that's different, but is it really? Why are there exceptions to your trigger, but no other person with a subject matter that triggers them have no exceptions? Having exceptions like only friends can touch simply doesn't make it a trigger anymore. One of them even told me, why are you so pressed, upset, angered, over pixels? The hypocrisy is real when they claim to be severely angered, upset over the same pixels. As someone with half phobia, it frustrates me that they have made a trend out of something I have to live with every day. There are no exceptions to my phobia. I can't even let my own family touch me without getting an extreme feeling of dread. I love games like Ponytown because I get to interact in ways I wouldn't be able to in reality. I love games where I can believe for a while I don't have this phobia. I understand having the discomfort of strangers talking to you or annoying you in game, i.e. booping randomly or forcing an RP, but it's not a trigger, and I will never support people who are openly making a mockery of a phobia that I have and lying about having something as severe as that. I'm not going to go out of way to interact with these people, as reasoning with them is a waste of time. And any time I've tried in the past, I've been given death threats. Anyone who has been able to read all of this, please consider what I have said. Most of my opinions came from my own therapist, who has many patients who have this phobia, half phobia, fear of being touched. And I would rather go with what a professional says rather than blindly agreeing with something that didn't exist in January. P.S. Phantom touches exist, but only on games like VR Chat and hyper-realistic games. Ponytown is not at all a hyper-realistic or VR game. It's a 2D 16-bit game where you create a pony, dress it up, and roleplay or chat with others. I in no way believe that these touch triggers exist, and I will not change my mind on this. If it did, I feel like I would have been able to hear it from somewhere other than 3 weeks ago when I spawned on someone who claimed to have it, and I got crowded around and harassed because of something completely out of my control. First of all, you're spitting straight facts, and that is an amazing comment. It's so educational. I almost cried reading it, no cap, because it's just deep. It has meaning. There's emotion in it. And it's terrible that people have these phobias that make it almost crippling or almost impossible to communicate with your family members. Alright, let's move on to some other comment that's below this. Your post needs all the upvotes in the world. I'm sorry you've had to deal with half phobia and that these people are making a mockery of it as some sort of social trend. What inspired me to make this topic was I saw a group harassing someone and taking shots at their mom. The victim then claimed their mother has passed, and mentioning her is a trigger, which I understand. The entire group defending the touch trigger laughed at them, saying it wasn't a real trigger and that it was a good thing she was dead, and continued to make lowbrow jokes about effing her while she was alive in her dead body. These people are hypocrites and only support triggers that are relevant to their social trend. They have absolutely no respect for other people's triggers. They demand that we respect their trigger even if you don't understand it, but will invalidate everybody else as not real. If their hypocrisy is brought up, they think it's valid to behave this way because you disrespected touch triggers. If you have questions that they can't answer because they don't really know anything about the subject, it's always met with a shut up, stop questioning, and just respect the trigger. To them, simply questioning it is disrespecting the trigger. It feels as if these people are just like getting off at bossing people around and using touch triggers to continue to betray their group as a victim. They are bullies, plain and simple, and in all my time in Ponytown, I don't think I've ever witnessed such a toxic, disrespectful group trend spread like this. This is the last post I'm reading from the Ponytown subreddit about this topic before I end this video, so yeah. I'll try to keep this short, and before I start, I am someone with a touch trigger in real life. I've had it for years from childhood trauma. Some of these people may be like me, but I can bet half of these kids are not, and it's another case of a trigger being used for attention. Everyone knows that there's been a big spike in the amount of touch trigger users on PT. They literally came out of nowhere and are everywhere now. Since I have a similar issue in real life with people, I can understand, but what gives it away to me that these people are faking it is when someone touches them or even walks by them, the TT person attacks them. Doesn't it make more sense to just hide them? Why are you chasing them down to scream at them if they just walked past you and one pixel of their mane happened to touch you? Some of these people want the mods to bend over backwards for them, even going as far as to remove booping. It may only be me, but my touch issue IRL does not affect me in game. In fact, I'm often sitting and cuddling my friends because that's something I usually can't do IRL, and the game gives me the chance to. It's a pixel 2D game, and some of you are claiming you can have a heart attack if a pixel touches you. Some TT people are joining regiments and want them to also change everything so that they can participate. The world does not revolve around you. It doesn't revolve around us. You are not helpless. You also have to do your own part to make sure you don't get quote-unquote triggered. Don't sit in crowded areas. Don't immediately attack someone and drag out the issue. Hide people that bother you. Don't join groups expecting them to change things for one member. Be aware that in a chat room like PT, you will be touched. And if that upsets you, you will still need to be the bigger person in any situation. Your trigger does not define you. And I agree. Let's just read the last comment. Bro, the group of TT people I've seen are apparently paranoid of the hide button. Like, what the frick? They still harass me, and my friends even called us on their little Twitter account. Seriously, this is getting out of hand here. It's like they want attention. As someone who's quite touch adverse in person, I find this trend to be pretty disrespectful. I understand if the person is shy or doesn't like being too close to others, but I don't really understand getting upset due to being touched in a pixel game. I'm aware that phantom touches exist for touch-averse people, but that's usually when playing a VR game or something similar where it feels more real. And plus, a lot of the people with touch triggers in ponytown are really rude and harass other people because of it. Like, you could just say, "Excuse me, could you move a little so you're not too close," instead of yelling at someone about a touch trigger. I agree. Or they could just stop doing this altogether, which they probably should. Yeah, the situation is worse than bonkers. It's worse than clownery. Yeah, you're kind of clowning around and claiming when someone's horse touches your horse that you burst into flames and die on the spot. Here's a little question for you. Why are you so fixated on this game that you get panic attacks over being touched inside the game? Why are you so fixated on this game that your subconscious believes that the horse you're playing as is your physical body? But honestly, something I've noticed a lot lately is when someone asks to be respected but refuse to respect the people around them. If you return the respect given, I'll respect you. If you can't respect a single soul, you don't deserve what you're asking for. I'm not obligated to respect someone who treats me like garbage for having different beliefs than them. I'm not obligated to change who I am and what I believe to please you. The game's moderators and game developers are not obligated to listen to a single person's request to change or remove features to make you more comfortable. Common sense and logic has left the chat. Anyways, I'm exhausted. Making this video has totally stolen my last surviving brain cell from me. Goodbye.